With Jake Paul defeating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. resulting in him being ranked by the World Boxing Association, and my favorite current boxer Gervonta Davis announcing that his next opponent is Jake Paul, I decided to be a good time to put out this list of fights I wanted to see. They weren't exactly likely to happen due to Jake moving on from fighting YouTubers to retired MMA fighters to retired boxers, and with the WBA ranking Jake Paul the number 14 cruiserweight, it seems I won't get to see these fights, but here they are. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more boxing content. I want to point out that I'll be referring to the fact that the Gervonta Davis vs. Jake Paul fight is happening, and Tank weighed in at 133.8 pounds for the Roach fight, and Jake Paul 199.4 pounds for the Chavez Jr. fight, making a 65.6 pounds difference between the two. They're obviously going to do a catch weight, but I'm using this to validate the possibilities of these fights. DDG. In 2021, the Michigan-born YouTuber, streamer, and artist DDG made his boxing debut in a match against Nate Wyatt, defeating him by unanimous decision. DDG has stated that Jake Paul is getting better and that he would box Jake Paul if the money is right. DDG also stated that he thinks Jake Paul might beat Conor McGregor, who I mentioned in my last Jake Paul video, as a potential fight for him. In DDG's exhibition bout, he was mainly the aggressor, constantly pressuring Nate with punches and seemed to have better conditioning than his opponent. DDG weighed in at 161.8 pounds, a 37.6 pound difference, but they can just do a catchweight fight like Tank v Paul. I have Jake winning this by KO in a later round after tiring DDG out. Blueface. The California rapper Blueface, known for hits such as Respect My Crippin' and Tatiana, signed up for the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship in 2021. He did a special gloved amateur bout against TikToker Kane Trujillo. After 3 rounds, Blueface won by a unanimous decision. Shortly after this fight, Jake Paul made a comment saying Blueface wasn't much of a draw or that no one would come see his fights because all he does is go to the studio and does drugs, to which Blueface responded that he was a clown and pointed out the hypocrisy of Jake having become a boxer from being an entertainer and bashing Blueface. After unfortunately having 2 fights canceled in 2022, Blueface fought an exhibition match in 2023 against TikToker Ed Matthews. Blueface won by TKO in the 5th round. From Blueface's first fight to his second, I noticed improvement with his guard, head movement, and footwork, telling me he indeed had been training and at least attempting to correct mistakes, which to me speaks to his dedication and skill as a fighter. Blueface weighed in at 156.5 pounds for his last fight, and since Jake weighed in at 199.4 pounds for his last fight, that's a 42.9 pound difference, but still less than the Tank and Paul difference. Jake wins this fight by late round KO unless Blueface has been training and goes the distance, but even then I have Jake winning by decision. Dr. Mike. One of my favorite YouTubers, Russian-American Dr. Mikhail Vershavsky. As a boxing coach and aspiring doctor myself, I definitely am a fan of this board-certified doctor that is proficient at the art of boxing. With an exhibition win in 2022 over iDubbbz by unanimous decision and a professional loss later that year to journeyman MMA fighter who had 2 of his fights in the UFC, Chris Avila, by unanimous decision, Dr. Mike has the highest skill level so far on this list. Dr. Mike's last fight was on the undercard of Jake Paul vs. Anderson Silva in 2022, so it doesn't seem too likely that Dr. Mike will put the gloves on again, but I would love to see it. Dr. Mike weighed in at 183.3 pounds in his bout with Chris Avila, also making this the closest in weight to Jake Paul so far as well. Dr. Mike shows a very good understanding of the fundamentals of boxing, and from what I saw in his last fight, Chris Avila looked more comfortable and started off early swinging hard, which set the pace of the fight, and Dr. Mike found himself on the defense mainly. He got some good counter punches in and had good head movement in my opinion, but the experience gap is what ultimately got him, with Chris having 17 MMA fights and 2 professional boxing matches before boxing Mike in his professional debut. But back to Jake Paul, I don't think he can knock Dr. Mike out, so Jake wins, it goes to decision, but I wouldn't call it far-fetched to believe Dr. Mike could edge out a win. Eddie Hall. Now this is probably the least likely fight on the list, but it doesn't change the fact that I wanted to see it. As a personal trainer and avid lifter myself, I am a fan of English strongman Eddie Hall dabbling in fighting. First place winner of England's Strongest Man 2010 and 11, UK's Strongest Man 2011 through 2016, Britain's Strongest Man 2014 through 2018, and 2017's World's Strongest Man, amongst a slew of other awards, Eddie Hall is clearly one of the world's strongest men. Eddie Hall has an amateur loss to fellow strongman Hafthor Bjornsson by unanimous decision in 2022. He defeated 2 featherweight TikTokers, the Nafati brothers, in 2024 in a 2v1 bout. And earlier this year, 2025, defeated fellow strongman and journey mixed martial artist Mario Pudzianowski in an MMA match via TKO in the first round. Pudzianowski fought all but one of his fights in the KSW, the top fighting promotion in Poland and one of the top in Europe. Eddie Hall challenged both the Paul brothers, Logan and Jake, to a 2v1 bout like the Nafati brothers. Jake Paul has not responded to this challenge. I would love to see the 2-on-1 fight, but I would be lying if I said I wouldn't watch Jake Paul versus Eddie Hall 1-on-1 if it was happening. Eddie Hall has come down to 362 pounds, making a 162.6 pound difference between him and Jake, so 1-on-1, Eddie wins by TKO due to unfair weight advantage, 7 out of 10. In his bout against Hafthor, he didn't keep his hands up enough for my liking and used too much energy too soon with his wild swings. That 3 out of 10 is if Jake can keep moving to not get hit and win by decision, or even TKO if he is able to wail on an exhausted Eddie. I think the Paul brothers might be able to do something with him if it's both of them, though, given that one of 50-50. The Paul brothers have more fighting skill than the Nafati brothers. KSI. Lastly, a fight I've been waiting years for that might still happen. KSI, the artist, influencer, and professional boxer born in London, has had history with Jake Paul's brother Logan Paul. KSI has been trained by former professional boxer Jeff Mayweather, uncle of Floyd Mayweather Jr., and undefeated British professional boxer Vidal Riley. After his first amateur win in 2018 against Joe Weller by TKO, he tied with Logan Paul after that year in their amateur bout. In his debut professional match in 2019, he defeated Logan Paul by split decision. He would go on to defeat rapper Swarms and Luis Alcaraz Pineda by KO in the same event in the same night in 2022. In 2023, after defeating esports gamer Faze Temper, KSI received a no contest against Joe Fournier, originally winning by KO but having the decision overturned due to an accidental elbow strike, and finally later in 2023 lost to Tommy Fury, the only boxer to defeat Jake Paul. KSI in his last fight showed good foot movement but also has a hands-down style of boxing that I honestly think is the reason he lost to Tommy Fury. KSI weighed in at 181.3 pounds in his last fight, fighting in the cruiserweight class. Jake Paul, who was also a cruiserweight, does indeed have more experience than KSI at this point. However, it's not a one-sided fight at all in my opinion. I have KSI winning 4 times out of 10 against Jake Paul. KSI and Jake Paul have made negotiations to fight, but it still hasn't happened, majorly due to disagreements on specifics. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, what fighters you want to see Jake Paul box, and what videos you want to see next. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more boxing content.